transferring the liquid of emotions between two cups is a metaphor expressing the alchemical process that takes place as two people or two parties exchange their feelings honestly. Hello and welcome to Luna.
And the Druid.
And today we will continue the journey, the Fool's Journey. And today we will continue the Temperance card, which today we will call an art.
Yeah, it was an idea that came up in the 1940s by Aleister Crowley, who was together with Lady Frida Harris creating a deck we now call the Thoth Tarot. It's most likely one of the top two or three decks in the world used. The major and the majority of the decks taken up by the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and as the secondly the Thoth deck. And what's very peculiar about the Thoth deck that some of the concepts that are in the classical tarot and in the Rider-Waite-Smith are thrown overboard and extended. What Crowley did was the three virtues that were in the standard tarot deck, which is
Mm.
strength, temperance, and justice. Both, or all three of them, got a different name in the Thoth deck. So the strength card is called the lust, the justice card is called adjustment, and the temperance card, this virtue, is called art. And it's much more about joining, about getting together, about working together towards synthesis, towards alchemy, towards
Mhm.
change, towards integration, even towards the biggest alchemical process, which is creating new life
Yeah.
between a man and a woman. And yeah, he did so in a very peculiar way. And if you look at the integration of some of the cards in the Thoth deck, uh, it's so special that when once you notice it and you can't unsee it anymore, there is something really special going on. The biggest thing before we go into more cards is the integration with the Lovers card.
Mm.
As you can see, the Lovers card contains two people. The one on the left, they're getting married by the Hermit, and on the right you see the Art card, where you see the same couple, but now they're integrating and they're working together. And lots of things have changed. The biggest thing that meets the eye is the lion on the Lovers card, which is red, and he turned into a white lion on the Art card. And the eagle on the right of the Lovers card is white, turned into a red one. So there is things have changed, things have adjusted, things have integrated, and we're different. And what is the couple that were married here and with the promise of new life uh, there in the card already? They're actually now creating new life or turning lead into gold in their cauldron. You can see the cauldron between the red eagle and the white lion, and they're mixing and matching there, and they're creating. They are actually the lovers creating the next generation, creating new life.
Mm.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. And it's in no way is this card um, from that perspective related to anything you see in the Temperance card. There's a big alchemical process, and the card of art is also the first keyword of the card is alchemy, is the start of alchemy.
That's the art of alchemy.
Yeah.
And knowing all those details behind the art card, to me, it's a very spiritual card. It gets even more spiritual. It signifies if there are people who resonate with a twin flame journey, For me, that's a very twin flame card. Even though many people will say four of wands is the card representing the union, to me, temperance is the union between the masculine and the feminine aspect
Yeah.
within ourselves, within our soul. So it's an interesting one. But before we jump ahead, I would love to bring some more temperance cards. Last week I didn't have a chance to do it as I wasn't in my studio, but I do have few interesting positions, starting from the Morgan Greer, which is a very traditional way of
Yeah.
looking with the angel. And the reason I'm bringing it today again is to show you the difference between this one or more representing the new age type of cards like the wider tarot have started with the creation, being completely different and being completely sometimes even irrelevant to the art from the Thoth Tarot. Another interesting one which could combine um, those two is this one, the Temperance from the Magic Tarot. It's my camera, it's not picking on the
Yeah.
details,
Now it does. Yeah. Yeah.
we have very feminine aspect here, and there are also masculine aspects here on this card, very very strong, and she's merging the two different fluids, white or bluish and the red, which would represent element of the woman and the men as well.
Yeah.
Another very interesting one is this is the Golden Wheel Tarot, and it's not in English. However, it shows a hermit
The Hermit again. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
um, messing here with two different veils. I find this card interesting. And last but not least, I think the most interesting out of the entire collection I have here is the Osho Tarot integration. I need to,
Oh yes.
and this has so many symbols, and I believe that inspiration for this one came from Thoth Tarot as well, because there is many similar symbols or different symbols which represent the same thing. And the
Yeah.
most important part is here, this integration here, the yin yang, the
Yeah.
masculine and the feminine aspects being within each other.
Yeah.
The moon, the sun here, the red, the blue, the rainbow, which is seen on that
Yeah.
art card.
Yeah. What strikes me immediately that the Osho deck also has the red and the white animal, like
Yes,
like like
exactly,
the art card. And
exactly.
although here the red the white one is a swan now,
Yeah.
it's
Why
still
is it not picking up? This camera is driving me crazy today,
yeah.
but what's
No,
new?
that's
Anyway,
fine.
you need to believe that there is an eagle here and there is a swan
I
here.
saw it. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah. Yeah. What's more very peculiar about this integration, because that's what we saw in the cards I showed earlier, where we saw the hermit blessing the couple, and the hermit that you showed in the card. Uh,
Mhm.
but also, if we look at the lovers, the astrological attributions, that the lovers is Gemini and temperance is Sagittarius. And when we look at the astrological card, they are exact opposites. You see the arrows in the middle? On the right, we have Gemini, left Sagittarius, and they're opposites. And of course, that's my sun sign is Gemini and my moon sign is Sagittarius, because it's the exact opposite. Make complete sense.
Mm.
And so the integration that Crowley made even in the astrological correspondences was extremely well. Um, I have,
Luckily, we have an expert on the Thoth Tarot here, because that card, particularly Temperance, is so deep with all the symbols. I'm happy to give voice over to Jan. I can see his excitement already. Um, could you tell us more? Because there are, as I said, there are many aspects of that card.
yeah.
Um, what are the main ones in your opinion?
Um, when I look at the cards, and when I look at the temperance card, and especially some cards related, we have an art card here as well from the Tides or the Maria Tarot,
Mm,
um, and we have a temperance card from the Alchemical Tarot deck. I showed it last week already, where we actually see distillation being one of the processes of alchemy. So the major thing is the integration of the masculine and feminine, the working together towards a certain a certain visual goal, and yeah, and the big takeaway here is the alchemical takeaway. Alchemy is everything in this card. So if we look at the slide I prepared for today, the topics would be alchemy and transformation, which is number one, that groups of the card. Creative synthesis. Synthesis is actually one of the processes in alchemy. Balancing opposites. We have a left and a right situation. We have them working together to create something. Integration of the self, expression of true will, the magic of creation, and infinite or limitless possibilities.
mm,
So, alchemy and transformation. Um, what does alchemy say? Alchemy is actually, um, the first alchemists tried to create the philosopher's stone, and with the help of the philosopher's stone, they could turn the lowest of metals, lead, into the highest of metal, gold.
mm,
So the alchemical process was changing lead into gold, and there were 7 steps involved. I don't go there. That's for us. Maybe we do an episode of an hour of alchemy altogether. We can do that easily. But the 7 steps would be breaking it down, burning it till it's just pulverized, and then working it up again. So it's uh, undoing undoing it of uh, burden, and undoing it of contaminations.
mm.
The
So,
big the big takeaway of alchemy in our current life is, of course, the inner change, the inner alchemy, where we turn the backpack of lead we carry around, all our problems, all the things that worry us, all the things that bother us, all our all the things that mess up our lives, they're our spiritual lead. And through spiritual alchemy, we turn the lead into spiritual gold. And
mm,
that's actually something we have already discussed more or less in the dark night of the soul. So when we go deep into the abyss, deep into rock bottom of in the dark night of the soul, that's when we get carried down by the backpack full of lead, by the spiritual lead, by the pain, by the suffering caused, sometimes physical, but most of the suffering we do is mental, is spiritual, is
mm,
psychological. So, and then at rock bottom, we awaken, we throw away the lead, we take home the gold, which is much less in volume, much less in weight, but worth much more. And up we go again, back into daylight.
in other words, the fool is learning that the alchemy is a process, the transformation is a personal, spiritual. It is a process and it requires skills and it requires insight. Things may or may not happen by itself. But the alchemy, as you said, it requires certain steps, and that's what the fool can learn from the alchemy itself.
Yeah, yeah. So the fool actually learns in this card the alchemy of living the perfect life, the alchemy
Mm,
of creating this masterpiece.
I love that.
Well, we believe, most spiritual people believe we have many lives. But suppose it isn't true. If this is the only one, then there's only one job we have here. that turning this one into a masterpiece, the best one
Mm.
we can live, and that's done through alchemy. Yeah, and with lots of other things, love and the whole lot. But it's an alchemical process, turning the spiritual lead into gold. Yeah. Creative synthesis, an interesting one because that's what the card is all about. The synthesis of bringing stuff together. Uh, it's an artful process, but it's a process that requires insight, skills, requires learning, um, creativity, being that goes beyond learning.
Mm.
I always say we as readers, for instance, we have our our creativity, we have our intuition. That's how we read the cards. But to become true masters of interpreting our intuition, we learn. So we're owls in the books, on my tarot books behind me. We're the owl in the books, but we're also the cunning fox, the smart one that goes by intuition, by smell, by sensing, and we integrate, we synthesize it into one person that's skillful, that's what did I say? I'm looking for the word intuitive, skillful,
Mm.
intuitive, and learned. So bringing that together, it's an artist, it's an artful work to create something, to transform stuff, to transform whatever you transform in your art. When I put cards on the table and create a story, that's creative synthesis.
Yeah.
The
But
rem
also, what I would love to add to the synthesis is the integrating the male and the female aspect. I think it's an important one to
Yeah,
bring here to the conversation, the integration between the fire and the liquid, the emotion, for example, which
yeah,
would be
yeah.
represented by the
And that's
feminine.
exactly what we see in the alchemy in the art card.
Exactly,
You see the
exactly.
two halves of the
Opposite forces
the
coming
male, the
together.
female.
Mhm.
They get together, opposite forces. They work together. They work together to create this spiritual gold. Yeah. Wow. Interesting stuff.
Very, very. I love this card, and I really love that you brought this idea to make it a separate one with this particular card because it brings so much more.
Yeah. Yeah. It brings the like we said the opposites where we have what opposites do we have in life? We have the masculine, the feminine. We have the spiritual world, the material world. We have so many opposites that are in our lives, and uh, and bringing them together. That's the big story.
Best example, our emotions very often can be contradictory as well, and we need to learn how to integrate them and we need to learn how to balance them.
Yeah, 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 and that's also balancing even the paradoxes in life. One of the biggest paradoxes is
Yeah.
is the is sometimes religion, where
That's a good example, actually.
where a god seems to be omnipresent but nowhere to be seen.
Mhm.
That's what I call the religion paradox.
Yeah, that's a really good example, actually.
Yeah, 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 of balancing opposites.
Mm.
So yeah, and from balancing opposites we go to the next topic, which is integration of the self.
Mm.
So that's actually what happens from the dark night of the soul. We go deep, shattered in internal conflict, in internal struggle. And now, once we awaken to it, once we realize that this is the life we live, this is just a body, we are consciousness that has taken a hold of this vessel for 80, 90, 100 years, longer or shorter, but we are pure consciousness. And that's all we are. Most of the things we become in life are are gone when the body dies. The self. the higher self remains. And that's when we integrate that, when we take the lessons of the ego, take the lessons, for instance, of a teacher like Eckhart Tolle, who who goes beyond the ego, goes beyond the self, and says, okay, you're an observer of your own life. You're playing a role, but who's watching the role? That's the higher self, and that's, I always say, when the lower self, or the one that lives the life, gets into trouble, the higher self says, "Bring in the coke and bring in the popcorn, because it's gonna get funny in this movie now."
Mm.
And that's the part we are playing. And if we only realize that we're playing a part, and the problems that bother us in our lives are just the adventures that the fool or the main character in our play is having. There's not a good book or a good movie where the hero doesn't get into trouble.
Well, that's the main problem. People think that they shouldn't have problems, and problems are actually opportunities to learn, to emerge, to integrate all the wisdom, whatever we've learned. And at this stage, when the fool meets the temperate, he's not as foolish anymore as he was. He's learned to integrate all the lessons he had to go through. That's including
Yeah,
the death which he was going through in the last card.
yeah,
Um, and it gives him a different perspective, a wider perspective, and the fool starts to connect all the dots, all the lessons, and emerge out of that as a new, more full, more aware person.
yeah, yeah. And it's actually when you divide, there's a full card number 0, and there's 21 other cards, and when you divide them in 3 parts of 7, we're now at the end of the second half,
Mhm.
or the second third, 14, and we're now going from here 15 to 21. So it's a quintessential part of dying and rebirth, of integrating, in becoming whole, becoming one, integrating your opposites. And that's when you go from appetite through will to reason, where the ego is slowly been taking of it. And here we have, um, yeah, this is the last part of the second part of the show, and this is the part of will, and that's actually where we are now. We're looking at the integration of will
Mm.
and the expression of true will, which is what we're doing. And true will, what is true will? uh,
That's a good question, actually.
Yeah. Well, Crowley said already in the Book of the Law, that the book, what was the first blueprint of the deck he created. There's only one law, and that's uh, love is the law. Love under will.
Mm.
Do what you will shall be the law.
Mm.
So there is no other thing than doing what you will shall be the law. Of course, we add to it, especially in the Wiccan raid, if as long as you harm none, do what you will. But Crowley said, yeah, do what you will. That's the law. Love
Mm.
is the law. That's the important thing. Love is the law. Love under will. And from love, you do the right things. You harm none. And
But
that's the true purpose of the Fool, the importance of aligning your actions with this deep intention and desire, with the creative energy to manifest your true will into the world.
exactly. How many times we want something, but our actions don't align with it. We dream about it, but it stays in the realms of dream because we don't take action towards it. We don't align it. We don't start the process of alchemy, of making things happen and taking that first step, that baby step.
Yeah, yeah, and that's
Mm,
that's that's where change comes from action and from expressing your will, for willful action.
absolutely. Well said.
Yeah, and then you go to this sixth point, the magic of creation,
Mm.
where creation itself is the magical process. That's what it's all about. That's the cauldron we see in the middle of the card, uh, where we mix and match to create something new, which is the art of creation, which is the art of alchemy. And yeah, it gives you a sense of empowerment. You're in control, you're in charge, and you have learned your lessons in the first part. You've integrated your lessons in the second part, and now you are creating something new. And of course, there's lovely things when you get this card in a reading. Uh, one of the first readings I had was a guy who was looking for direction, and he got this card as a sign. I said, "Well, what are you creating?" He says, "I love to brew beer." Says, well, that's what they're what the person or the persons in this card are doing. There's no such thing as a fixed meaning in the card. No, brewing beer is what happens in the card. It's creating something new. It's an alchemical process,
Mhm.
as a most of us do alchemy every day when we make our morning teas or our morning coffees.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
alchemy. It's all alchemy. It's the magic of creating something out of out of different things.
Yeah, we need to remember that yes, tarot will go very deep and tarot will be all about alchemical, magical stuff, but also every day, like simple as making a coffee. Just like you said, we take two different substances, a solid and the liquid one, we combine it and we create something magical. I'm a coffee lover, so for
And
me,
we
magic
stir it,
coffee. Yeah, we stir it like the devil
or we
stirs.
fill, or even we have a paper filter coffee machine, so we don't have high pressure or something, but really traditional coffee, and then filter it like in the distillation process. Making
Yeah, that's
coffee
exactly
is
what it
is an
is.
alchemical process. Yeah,
Mm,
lovely.
wonderful.
And then finally you get to yeah, and that's definitely the step where you have left the ego, where you're manifesting your dreams, where you go into infinite possibilities, where you come to the realization that that you're you're not bound to be small and meaningless. No, we are here for greatness.
Mm,
We're here to manifest our lives, to make the best of it, to get everything of it, and not necessarily material and destructive, but also creative and building the life of your dreams, building manifesting change, manifesting change, even like in a magical way, manifesting change without even changing the world of matter,
mm,
the inner change, the change
mhm,
within. And that's what the card also represents, the new opportunities when we allow ourselves to live our purpose, and to agree that the purpose of life is to live from one day into another and to make the best of it.
mm, mm.
And that's an art. That's the art of living.
Exactly, exactly. Because sometimes we tend to focus on the things we don't want. We tend to focus on the negative instead of searching for that magic, which is surrounding us every day.
It is.
Um, Out of all the aspects we discussed here, which one is your favorite? Do you have a favorite one?
Well, there's a few. I think the most important one for any individual is the change from the spiritual led into the spiritual goal and the
Mm,
infinite possibilities. So the creation of life under will. Love is the law, love under will. So living a willful, meaningful, purposeful life in control.
mm.
Yeah, sometimes even with going with the flow, but still in control. You're in charge of your life. You make the decisions. You're in control. So that's that part. And of
Yeah,
course,
you're the alchemist of your own life.
that's who you are. Yeah, and the second one is of course the part where the cauldron becomes the womb,
Mm.
the creation of new life,
Creation.
because that's one of the first meanings Crowley gives in his book of Thoth, uh, that it is the creation that we create new life
Mm.
out of opposites.
Wonderful cards.
I
So
wonder.
many important life lessons come from just one single card.
Yeah, and actually, and that's one single card that took a detour from the original card,
Yeah.
and that's one of the reasons why I love this deck. This is more than just a tarot deck. It's the story of my life. It's the story of everybody's life.
Hmm. Well said. Beautiful.
And with that, dear viewers,
Thank you very much for being here with us today.
yeah, we come to the end of the show.
Yeah.
We're back Monday at 8, or next week,
Live.
or
Yes.
next, yeah, live, or next week with the episode of the devil. I love it. Bring on
Will
Lucifer.
be an interesting one. But in the meantime, remember to like this video, share it with your friends, write in the comments what do you think about, or how do you feel about the Temperance card? What is your interpretation of that
What are your
wonderful and
cards? Yeah.
beautiful card? In the meantime, see you in the space.
See you later. Bye, girls and boys.